The dust tasted like copper and ash in Zara's mouth. She lay crumpled against the broken stone pillar, her forearms wrapped around her torso where the plasma burns had eaten through her silver skin. The great crystal spires of Kelthra Prime stretched into the crimson sky above her, their light dimmed forever. The singing stones that had once filled the air with her people's ancient melodies now lay shattered and silent. She was the last. The knowledge sat in her chest like a physical weight, crushing her hearts with each labored breath. The Devourers had come 3 cycles ago, their black ships blotting out the sun before unleashing hell upon her world. They had taken everything, her family, her city, her entire species, and left only this dying planet behind. Zara's primary eyes fluttered closed as another wave of pain shot through her broken body. The secondary pair on the sides of her head had gone dark hours ago, damaged beyond repair. She could feel her life force ebbing away like water through cracked stone. Perhaps it was better this way. What point was there in surviving when you were the last voice that would ever speak your language, the last heart that would ever beat with Kelthran blood? The ground beneath her trembled. At first, she thought it was another building collapsing. The city had been falling apart piece by piece since the bombardment ended. But the vibration felt different. Rhythmic, mechanical, footsteps, impossible. The Devourers had left nothing alive. Zara forced her eyes open, expecting to see one of those nightmare creatures returning to finish what they had started. Instead, she saw something that made her wonder if death was already playing tricks with her mind. A figure approached through the rubble, bipedal but smaller than a devourer. It wore some kind of armored suit that gleamed dully in the red light, moving with careful, deliberate steps. As it drew closer, Zara could see it wasn't like any species she knew. The being had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and what appeared to be a single pair of eyes behind a transparent faceplate. The creature stopped just a few meters away, and Zara heard a sound she hadn't expected. A sharp intake of breath that sounded almost like surprise or concern. The being's hands moved to a device on its chest, and suddenly the air filled with strange sounds. Languages, dozens of them, cycling through in rapid succession, as if the creature was searching for something. When the device reached Kelthran, Zara's hearts nearly stopped. The words were crude, clearly generated by some kind of translation matrix, but they were unmistakably her language. "Can you understand me?" the being asked, its voice distorted by the translator but carrying an odd gentleness. "I am human. I am friend. I want to help." Human. Zara had never heard of such a species. She tried to speak but could only manage a wet cough that brought up more of the silver blood that had been leaking from her lungs. The human immediately dropped to its knees beside her, pulling objects from pouches on its suit. "Don't try to talk," the human said, running some kind of scanning device over her body. "You're badly hurt, but you're alive. That's what matters right now." The scanner beeped rapidly, and the human muttered something in its own language that the translator didn't catch. Then it looked directly at her through that faceplate, and Zara saw something that shattered every assumption she'd had about death and abandonment. Compassion. This creature, this human, was looking at her the way her mother had when Zara was small and hurt. With care. With determination. With the kind of fierce protectiveness that said nothing would be allowed to harm her while this being still drew breath. "My name is Marcus Chen," the human said, already working to clean her wounds with practiced efficiency. "I'm a medic with the Human Resistance Fleet. We picked up your planet's distress signals 3 days ago. I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner." Resistance Fleet. That meant these humans were fighting the Devourers too. Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in days. A tiny spark of hope, fragile as a newborn flame. Marcus continued working, applying some kind of healing gel to her burns that immediately began to numb the pain. "We thought everyone was gone. Our scans showed no life signs, but our AI detected a faint energy signature in this sector, what looked like a failing life support system. I convinced my captain to let me check it out." Life support system. Zara almost laughed if she'd had the strength. He was talking about her bioluminescent organs, the ones that had been slowly dying as her body gave up. To his scanners, they probably looked like failing technology. "You came down here alone?" she managed to whisper, the words barely audible through her damaged throat. Marcus's hands paused for just a moment. Sometimes one person has to risk everything to save another. That's what makes us human. As he worked to stabilize her injuries, Zara felt something she'd thought was lost forever, the possibility that she might see tomorrow. But more than that, she felt the beginning of something else. Connection. Understanding between two species who had never met but who shared the same enemy and, apparently, the same capacity for hope in the face of impossible odds. The human called Marcus had found her in her darkest hour. Now, as consciousness began to fade from blood loss and exhaustion, she wondered what else they might discover about each other in the light of a new day. Consciousness returned slowly, like climbing out of deep water. Zara's first sensation was the absence of pain, real, blessed relief from the agony that had consumed her for days. Her second was the steady hum of what sounded like advanced medical equipment, far more sophisticated than anything the Devourers had left intact on her world. She opened her primary eyes to find herself in a small but well-equipped medical bay. Soft blue light emanated from panels in the walls, and the air carried the clean scent of recycled atmosphere. Most remarkably, she was warm, properly warm for the first time since the bombardment had destroyed her city's climate systems. "You're awake." The voice came from her left, speaking perfect Keltheran through that same translation device. Marcus sat in a simple chair beside her bed, no longer wearing his armored suit. Instead, he wore a plain gray uniform that revealed more of his species' unusual anatomy. His skin was darker than hers, a rich brown color, and she could see that humans had hair, fine strands covering their heads and parts of their faces. "Where am I?" Zara asked, surprised at how clear her voice sounded. Her throat no longer felt like broken glass. "Medical bay aboard the RSV Defiance," Marcus replied, leaning forward slightly. "It's a human resistance ship. We brought you up from the planet's surface 6 hours ago. How do you feel?" Zara took careful inventory of her body. The plasma burns were still there, but they were healing. She could feel new tissue forming beneath the regeneration wraps Marcus had applied. Her secondary eyes remained damaged, but the pain was manageable now. "Better," she said honestly. "Much better. But why? Why did you save me?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, and Zara saw something complex pass across his features. Emotions she couldn't quite read, but that seemed to involve both sadness and determination. "Because leaving you to die would have made us no better than the things we're fighting," he said finally. "And because no one should have to face extinction alone." The weight in those words told Zara that Marcus understood loss in ways she hadn't expected. She studied his face more carefully, noting the lines around his eyes and the way his shoulders carried tension even in rest. "How many humans are left?" she asked quietly. Marcus's expression tightened. 17 billion when the Devourers first attacked our system. 800 million now, scattered across a dozen refugee fleets. We've been running for 2 years, hitting them where we can, but—" he shook his head. "They're not just conquering. They're erasing everything. Every trace that we ever existed." The familiar weight of genocide settled between them. Zara reached out with one of her 4 hands, covering his 2-fingered one with her longer, silver digits. The contact sent a small shock through both of them, different species, different evolutionary paths, but the same understanding of what it meant to watch your people vanish from the universe. "I'm the last Keltheran," she said softly. "My planet held 47 billion souls 3 days ago. Now there's just me." Marcus turned his hand palm up beneath hers, creating a strange but oddly natural grip. "Then we're both endangered species. That means we have to stick together." A soft chime interrupted them, and a voice spoke from hidden speakers in the bay. "Dr. Chun, please report to the bridge. Priority 1. Marcus sighed and stood, but he didn't immediately pull his hand away. "That's Captain Rivera. Probably means we've detected another Devourer patrol." He looked down at Zara with concern. "Will you be okay here for a while? The medical AI will monitor you, and if you need anything, just ask out loud. The ship's computer understands basic Keltheran now. I uploaded your language database to our systems." Zara nodded, then surprised herself by asking, "Will you come back? Try to keep me away," Marcus said with what she was learning to recognize as a human smile. "I want to hear about your people. About Kelthera Prime before." He didn't finish the sentence, but she understood. After he left, Zara lay back against the soft pillows and tried to process everything that had happened. Yesterday she had been ready to die alone in the ruins of her civilization. Today she was aboard a ship full of aliens who had risked their lives to save her, who spoke her language and understood her loss because they were living it themselves. The medical bay's main screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a star map with hundreds of small indicators moving slowly through space. A synthetic voice spoke in accented but clear Keltheran. "These are the known human refugee fleets. Each indicator represents between 10 and 50 million survivors." Zara stared at the display, realizing the magnitude of what she was seeing. These humans weren't just running, they were organized. They had fleets, medical ships, resistance fighters. They had turned their extinction into a coordinated effort to survive and fight back. "How many resistance ships are there?" she asked the computer. "Current count, 837 active vessels of various classifications. We estimate 12,000 more are in deep space or operating under communication silence. 12,000 ships. Hundreds of millions of people refusing to go quietly into extinction." Zara felt something stir in her chest that she hadn't experienced since the first Devourer ships had appeared in her sky. Not just hope, but purpose. She wasn't just the last Keltheran anymore. She was the last Keltheran among allies who understood exactly what that meant and who were willing to fight to ensure it didn't happen to anyone else. The bridge's Priority 1 alert suddenly made sense. This wasn't just about survival, it was about war. And for the first time since her world died, Zara wanted to be part of it. The alarm that woke Zara was unlike anything she'd heard before. A deep, thrumming sound that seemed to resonate through the ship's hull itself. Red lights flashed in the medical bay as the computer's voice announced, "All hands to battle stations. Devourer contact bearing 27 Mark IV. All hands to battle stations." Zara sat up quickly, her healing body protesting the sudden movement. Through the small viewport beside her bed, she could see stars wheeling as the ship changed course. In the distance, something dark moved against the stellar background, too far away to make out clearly, but large enough to block starlight. The medical bay doors hissed open, and Marcus rushed in, now wearing what appeared to be combat gear over his uniform. His face was grim but focused, and he carried a small device that he immediately began running over her body. "How do you feel?" he asked, the scanner beeping rapidly as it analyzed her condition. "Can you move?" "I think so," Zara said, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. The movement caused some discomfort, but nothing like the agony she'd experienced on the planet. "What's happening?" "Devourer heavy cruiser," Marcus said, helping her stand. "It followed our jump signature from your planet. They know we were there, which means they know someone survived." He looked directly at her. "They're coming for you specifically." The weight of that realization hit Zara like a physical blow. "Because I'm the last one. They want to finish what they started." "That's what we think," Marcus confirmed, leading her toward the door. "Captain Rivera wants to speak with you. Can you walk?" Zara took a few experimental steps. Her legs felt unsteady, but functional. "Yes, but Marcus, I don't want to be the reason your people die fighting for me." He stopped and turned to face her fully. "Zara, listen to me carefully. We were already at war with these things. They've been hunting our fleets for 2 years. This isn't about you being a burden. This is about you being proof that they can be beaten." "What do you mean?" "You survived their planetary bombardment. You lived for 3 days in conditions that should have killed you. That's not just luck. That's something they didn't account for. Intelligence we can use." They made their way through corridors filled with humans moving with urgent purpose. Zara marveled at the ship's design. Everything was functional but elegant, built for long-term habitation rather than just warfare. These people had been planning for a long fight. The bridge was a spacious chamber dominated by a large holographic display showing tactical information. Captain Rivera stood at the center of it all, A woman with gray-streaked hair pulled back severely, her dark eyes constantly moving between displays and crew members. When she saw Zara, she nodded curtly. "Ms. Zara, I'm Captain Elena Rivera. I wish we could meet under better circumstances." Her voice was crisp and professional, but Zara could hear genuine concern beneath it. "How much do you know about devourer hunting patterns?" "Not much," Zara admitted. "They attacked our cities first, then our military installations. After that, it was just systematic destruction." Rivera gestured to the main display, which now showed a three-dimensional map of the local star system. The Devourer ship appeared as a red indicator, moving steadily toward their position. "They're different with us," Rivera explained. "With humans, they've been playing a longer game. Psychological warfare. They let some of our ships escape, then hunt us down slowly. They want us to feel hopeless before they finish us." "But they didn't do that on my world," Zara said. "They just killed everyone as quickly as possible." "Exactly," Rivera said, turning to face her directly. "Which suggests they see your species as a different kind of threat. Something that requires immediate elimination rather than slow torture." Marcus stepped forward. "Captain, we're getting reports from other fleets. 3 more Devourer ships have broken off from their assigned patrol routes. They're all converging on this sector." Rivera's expression hardened. "They're not just coming for her. They're committing serious resources to make sure she doesn't survive. The question is why." Zara felt all eyes on the bridge turn toward her. The weight of being the sole survivor of her species was crushing enough, but now she realized she might be carrying information or capabilities that could affect the entire war. "I don't know what makes Keltherans special," she said quietly. "We were philosophers and artists, not warriors. We built things of beauty, not weapons." "Tell us about your people's technology," Rivera said urgently. "Specifically, anything related to energy manipulation or consciousness transfer." Zara's primary heart skipped a beat. "How did you—" "Your bioluminescent organs," Marcus interrupted. "When I scanned you on the planet, the readings were unlike anything in our database. Your body doesn't just process energy. It stores and manipulates it in ways we've never seen." The pieces began falling into place in Zara's mind. The singing stones that had powered their cities. The way Keltherans could share memories and emotions through direct contact. The crystalline architecture that had amplified their natural abilities. "We called it the deep harmony," she said slowly. "The connection between consciousness and the fundamental forces of the universe. Every Keltheran could touch it to some degree." Rivera and Marcus exchanged a look that spoke volumes. "Show me," Rivera said simply. Zara looked around the bridge, then focused on a small maintenance panel that had gone dark on one of the secondary stations. She reached out with her mind, feeling for the familiar resonance of energy patterns, and gently encouraged the damaged circuits to reconnect. The panel flickered to life, its displays coming online with a soft hum. Every human on the bridge stared at her in stunned silence. "That's why they wanted us all dead," Zara whispered, understanding flooding through her. "If humans learned to use the deep harmony, we'd be unstoppable," Rivera finished. The Devourer ship hung in space like a malignant star, its black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Through the bridge's main screen, Zara could see the organic curves and twisted spires that marked their enemy's architecture. Technology grown rather than built, shaped by minds that viewed destruction as art. "Range 2 million kilometers and closing," reported the tactical officer, a young man whose hands moved constantly over his control surface. "Their weapons are powering up." Captain Rivera stood at the center of the bridge, her expression carved from stone. "All ships, this is defiance. Execute scatter pattern Delta. Do not engage unless they fire first." Zara watched the tactical display as the small human fleet, 7 ships total, began to spread out in what looked like a desperate attempt to avoid destruction. But she was beginning to understand these humans better. Nothing they did was without purpose. "It's a trap," she said quietly, and several heads turned toward her. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked from his position at the medical monitoring station. "The formation. You're not trying to escape. You're drawing them into an ambush. Rivera smiled grimly. Quick learner. We've been running from these things for 2 years, but we've learned a few tricks along the way. She turned to her communications officer. Signal the Edinburgh and the Mumbai. Tell them to begin the resonance cascade. Zara felt something shift in the ship around her. A subtle vibration that seemed to harmonize with the energy patterns she could sense through the deep harmony. What are you doing? Something we learned from studying Kelthran ruins, Rivera explained. Your people built their technology around energy resonance patterns. We've been trying to reverse engineer the principles, but we've never had a living Kelthran to help us understand how it actually works. The realization hit Zara like a physical shock. You want me to weaponize the deep harmony? Not weaponize, Marcus said quickly. Amplify. The Devourers have some kind of psychic dampening field around their ships. It's how they break the spirit of species before they destroy them. But if we can create a counter-resonance, we can turn their own weapon against them, Rivera finished. On the screen, the Devourer ship was close enough now to reveal details of its construction. Zara could see the organic tendrils that connected different sections, the way its hull pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that reminded her disturbingly of corrupted Kelthran architecture. They're using our technology, she whispered, horror creeping into her voice. Those patterns, that's based on our harmony crystals. They didn't just destroy us. They absorbed us. The bridge fell silent except for the steady beeping of sensors and the low hum of ship systems. Every human present seemed to understand the implications of what Zara had discovered. How many other species? Rivera asked quietly. Unknown, the tactical officer reported, his voice tight with controlled anger. But if they're incorporating the unique abilities of every civilization they destroy, then they're not just committing genocide, Marcus said. They're stealing the best of each species and adding it to their own capabilities. Zara felt rage building in her chest. Not the cold despair she'd carried since her planet's death, but hot, focused fury. The Devourers hadn't just killed her people. They had desecrated everything the Keltherans had been, turning their greatest achievements into tools of oppression. How do I help you fight them? She asked, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. Rivera gestured to a special console that had been hastily installed near the captain's chair. We've been working on this for months, but we've never been able to make it function properly. It's designed to interface with Kelthran bioelectric patterns. Zara approached the console, which hummed with familiar energy signatures. As she placed her 4 hands on the interface panels, the entire bridge seemed to come alive around her. She could feel the ship systems, the life signs of every human aboard, even the distant presence of the other vessels in their small fleet. But more than that, she could sense the Devourer ship and the twisted remnants of Kelthran consciousness trapped within its living hull. They're still there, she gasped, tears streaming down her silver cheeks. My people, parts of them are still alive inside that thing. They're being forced to power its systems. Marcus moved to her side, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Can you free them? I can try, but it will require everything I have. And even if it works, you might not survive, Rivera said bluntly. Zara looked around the bridge at these humans who had risked everything to save her, who had given her hope when she thought she was truly alone in the universe. They deserved honesty. The deep harmony isn't just about manipulating energy, she explained. It's about connecting consciousness across space and time. If I open myself fully to it, I can reach my people trapped in that ship. But the backlash. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I might be joining them permanently. We can't ask you to do that, Marcus said immediately. You're not asking, Zara replied, her voice growing stronger as she made her decision. I'm choosing. This is what it means to be the last of your kind. Sometimes you have to risk everything to ensure your people's story doesn't end in darkness. The Devourer ship was close enough now that she could see individual weapon ports opening along its hull. In minutes, it would be in range to destroy the entire human fleet. All hands, brace for resonance cascade, Rivera announced over the ship's communication system. Zara closed her primary eyes and reached deep into the fundamental forces that connected all living things. For the first time since her planet died, she was no longer alone. She could feel her people calling to her across the void, begging for release from their torment. She was going to give it to them. The deep harmony flowed through Zara like liquid lightning, every cell in her body resonating with frequencies that existed beyond normal space-time. Through the console interface, she could feel the Devourer ship's approach, not just as a physical object, but as a wound in reality itself, a place where the natural order had been corrupted and twisted into something obscene. Her people's voices grew stronger as the distance closed. Thousands of Kelthran consciousness fragments, torn from their bodies during the planet's destruction and somehow preserved within the enemy vessel's bioneural networks. They had been turned into living components, their ability to manipulate energy enslaved to power the very weapons that had destroyed their world. Zara. Marcus's voice seemed to come from very far away, though she could feel his presence beside her like a warm anchor. Your biosigns are spiking. I don't think your body can handle much more of this. She opened her secondary eyes. Somehow they were functioning again, healed by the energy coursing through her system, and saw the bridge around her had transformed. Every surface glowed with soft Kelthran harmonics, and she could see the life force patterns of every human present as shimmering auras of determination and courage. The cascade is working, Rivera reported, her voice tight with concentration. Their dampening field is fluctuating. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Through the main screen, Zara could see the Devourer ship beginning to convulse. Its organic hull rippled with waves of conflicting energy as the stolen Kelthran technology began to fight against its captors. But she could also sense something else. The ship's central intelligence was adapting, trying to reassert control over the rebellion building within its systems. It's learning, she warned through gritted teeth. The ship's core mind is trying to sever the connections to my people. How long do you need? Rivera asked. Zara reached deeper into the harmony, feeling her consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of her physical form. She could sense individual Kelthran voices now, her teacher Velith, who had shown her how to make the singing stones respond to her touch, her bond sister Kala, whose laughter had been the most beautiful sound in their city, even fragments of her parents, somehow preserved in the digital hell the Devourers had created. I can free them, she said, her voice echoing strangely as if spoken from multiple dimensions at once. But I need to go deeper. I need to touch the ship's core directly. Zara, no, Marcus said urgently. If you extend your consciousness that far, you might not be able to pull back. She turned to look at him, seeing not just his physical form but the bright pattern of his soul, complex and beautiful, filled with compassion and stubborn courage. Around him, the other humans shone with similar light, each unique but all connected by their shared determination to survive and protect others. This is what my people were meant to do, she said softly. We were bridge builders, connectors. We made harmony between different forms of life. Maybe this is why the universe arranged for you to find me. The Devourer ship suddenly lurched, its weapons powering down as internal conflicts disrupted its systems. But Zara could feel its core intelligence rallying, preparing for a massive psychic assault that would crush the rebellion and reassert total control. It's going to fight back, she warned. Everyone hold on. She dove deep into the ship's bioneural network, her consciousness racing through pathways of living tissue and corrupted crystal matrices. The further she went, the more horror she encountered. Not just Kelthran fragments, but pieces of dozens of other extinct species, all trapped and enslaved to serve their own destroyers. At the ship's heart, she found what she was looking for. A massive intelligence that pulsed with malevolent satisfaction. It wasn't truly alive in any sense she recognized. More like a cancer that had grown to consciousness, feeding on the deaths of entire civilizations and incorporating their unique abilities into its ever-expanding hunger. When it sensed her presence, its attention turned toward her like the gaze of a dying star. You should not exist. It spoke directly into her mind with a voice like breaking worlds. Your species has been consumed. Your potential has been absorbed. You are nothing but an error to be corrected. I am the last voice of Kelthra Prime, Zara replied, gathering every fragment of her people's consciousness around her like armor. And I carry the harmony of 47 billion souls. The core intelligence laughed, a sound that would have shattered her sanity if she had been facing it alone. But she wasn't alone. Through the console connection, she could feel the humans on the bridge supporting her. Marcus's unwavering faith, Rivera's tactical brilliance, the crew's collective determination to see her succeed. More than that, she could sense the other human ships in their fleet, hundreds of thousands of refugees who had refused to surrender despite losing everything. They were lending her their strength across impossible distances, their combined will focused on a single purpose, ensuring that no other species would suffer as theirs had. You made one mistake, Zara told the core intelligence as power built around her like a stellar explosion waiting to happen. You assumed that being the last of my kind made me weak. But it doesn't. It makes me responsible for everything my people ever were, and everything they ever could be. She reached out through the deep harmony and touched every enslaved consciousness within the ship simultaneously. My brothers and sisters, she called to them in the ancient language of their homeworld. It's time to go home. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 47 billion voices cried out in unison. Their combined will focused through Zara's living form and directed at the core intelligence that had enslaved them. The Devourer ship began to tear itself apart from the inside. The explosion was visible across 3 star systems, a burst of pure harmonized energy that transformed the Devourer ship from a weapon of genocide into a beacon of liberation. As the core intelligence died, screaming its rage across dimensions, every enslaved consciousness within the ship's bioneural networks was simultaneously freed. Zara felt them all in those final moments. Not just her own people, but fragments of 100 extinct species, their unique gifts and perspectives flowing through her awareness like a river of light. The Devourers had thought they were collecting trophies, but they had actually been preserving the last remnants of civilizations they tried to erase completely. And now those remnants were free. She opened her eyes to find herself back on the Defiance's bridge, no longer connected to the console interface. Her body felt strangely light, as if she was only partially present in normal spacetime. Marcus knelt beside her, his scanner showing readings that fluctuated wildly between normal Kelthran baselines and something entirely unprecedented. "Zara," he said softly, relief evident in his voice. "You're back. For a moment there, we thought we'd lost you." She sat up slowly, marveling at how different everything looked. The bridge still appeared normal to her primary eyes, but her restored secondary vision showed layers of reality she'd never perceived before. Energy patterns that connected every living thing aboard the ship, probability streams that showed possible futures branching out like fractal trees. "The ship," she asked. "Is it?" "Gone," Captain Rivera confirmed, turning from the main display where debris still glowed with residual harmonic energy. "Complete destruction." But something else happened when it exploded. She gestured to her communications officer. "Show her." The main screen shifted to display a tactical map of the surrounding star systems. Dozens of red indicators, Devourer ships that had been moving to intercept them, had gone dark simultaneously. "It's like they all just stopped," the tactical officer explained. "Long-range sensors show the ships are still intact, but they're completely inactive. Dead in space." Zara understood immediately. The core intelligences were all connected. When this one died, it sent a feedback pulse through their entire network. They're not destroyed, but they're stunned, temporarily disconnected from whatever central authority coordinates them. "How long do we have?" Rivera asked. "I don't know," Zara admitted, "but long enough to do something they won't expect." Marcus helped her to her feet, and she was surprised to discover that she felt stronger than she had since before the bombardment of her world. The deep harmony still flowed through her, but it was different now, enhanced by her contact with the consciousness fragments of so many different species. "There's something else," she said, looking around the bridge at the humans who had risked everything to save her. "When I freed the trapped consciousnesses, they didn't just disappear. They're still here in a way, connected to the harmonic field that surrounds this ship." She gestured, and the bridge lights dimmed as new patterns began to appear in the air around them. ghostly but distinct forms representing different species, all focused on the small group of humans who had made their liberation possible. They want to help, Zara explained. All of them. The Devourers thought they were collecting the best abilities from each civilization they destroyed, but they never understood that consciousness can't truly be enslaved. It just finds new ways to express itself. Rivera stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. Are you saying we now have access to the combined knowledge and abilities of 100 extinct species? Not exactly, Zara said carefully. It's more like guidance. They can share insights about Devourer weaknesses, technologies that might be adapted for human use, strategic information gathered during their own final battles. She paused, feeling the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders. But mostly, they want to ensure that no other civilization suffers as they did. The communications officer suddenly looked up from her station. Captain, we're receiving messages from across the human fleet. Other ships are reporting similar phenomena, energy readings, apparent technological enhancements, crew members claiming to receive insights about Devourer tactics. It's spreading, Marcus said in wonder. The harmonic field is connecting to every human ship in the fleet. Zara nodded. The deep harmony doesn't recognize the artificial boundaries we create between species or individuals. If you're willing to accept the connection, it will treat you as part of the same cosmic family. Captain Rivera was quiet for a long moment, clearly considering the implications. Finally, she spoke. Ms. Zara, I need to ask you something directly. Are we still facing extinction? Zara looked at the tactical display, seeing not just the current positions of human ships and Devourer forces, but the probability streams that flowed between them like rivers of potential. The ghostly forms of 100 extinct species swirled around her, their combined wisdom whispering possibilities that had never existed before this moment. No, she said finally, her voice carrying absolute certainty. You're not facing extinction anymore. None of us are. The Devourers made a critical error when they tried to collect and control consciousness itself. They gave us exactly what we needed to defeat them, unity across species lines. She moved to the central display, her four hands dancing over the controls as she began to show them what she could see. The tactical map transformed, revealing hidden patterns in Devourer movements, weaknesses in their formations that had been invisible before. Look, she said, highlighting a cluster of inactive enemy ships. Their network isn't just stunned, it's corrupted. Every ship that received the feedback pulse is now carrying traces of liberated consciousness. They're fighting an internal war they don't even understand. Marcus stepped closer, his scanner still tracking the unprecedented changes in her physiology. Your people were master bridge builders. What kind of bridge are you building now? Zara smiled, feeling the warmth of connection flowing between herself and every human on the bridge. The final one, between life and death, between extinction and rebirth, between the end of one story and the beginning of another. As if summoned by her words, the ghostly forms around them began to solidify slightly, becoming more distinct. A Keltheran figure that might have been her teacher Velith nodded approvingly. A crystalline being from a species she didn't recognize offered what appeared to be technical schematics. A creature of pure energy that resembled living starlight pulsed with patterns that spoke of hope. They're not just guides, Zara realized, wonder filling her voice. They're partners. Every species the Devourers thought they had destroyed is ready to fight back through us. Captain Rivera's expression shifted from tactical concern to something approaching awe. How do we coordinate something like this? We're talking about the resurrection of entire civilizations through human consciousness. The same way my people always did, Zara replied. Through harmony. Through understanding that separation is an illusion and that all consciousness is connected at the deepest level. She turned to face the captain directly. But it requires trust. Complete trust. Complete trust. If humans are willing to open yourselves to this connection, you won't just be fighting for your own survival. You'll be fighting for the continuation of life itself in this galaxy. The bridge fell silent as the magnitude of what she was proposing settled over everyone present. They weren't just being offered a chance to survive. They were being invited to become something unprecedented in galactic history. There are risks, Zara continued honestly. Opening human consciousness to this level of connection will change you. You'll still be human, but you'll also be something more. Carriers of knowledge and wisdom from 100 worlds. Guardians of memories from civilizations that span millions of years. Marcus moved to stand beside her, his presence warm and steady. What about you? What happens to the last Keltheran when this is over? Zara felt tears, silver and luminous, flow down her cheeks as she considered his question. I won't be the last anymore. Every human who accepts the connection will carry part of what it means to be Keltheran. My people will live on through your people, just as all these other species will live on through human determination and courage. She gestured to the ghostly forms surrounding them, and for a moment they all seemed to pulse with the same rhythm, the heartbeat of life itself refusing to surrender to extinction. But I need to know, she said, looking around the bridge at each human face. Are you willing? Are your people willing to become the bridge between what was lost and what can still be saved? Captain Rivera stepped forward, her command presence filling the space around her. On behalf of the human species, she said formally, I accept this connection. We've been running from extinction for 2 years, but we've never stopped fighting. If you're offering us a chance to ensure that no other species faces what we've faced, then yes, we're willing to become whatever we need to be. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. As Rivera spoke her acceptance, the harmonic field around the ship expanded exponentially, reaching out to touch every human consciousness within range. Across the fleet, thousands of people suddenly found themselves connected not just to each other, but to the living memory of entire civilizations. On the Defiance's bridge, each crew member began to glow softly as the deep harmony flowed through them. They remained completely human, but Zara could see the additional layers of awareness settling into their consciousness like new rooms being added to an existing house. Marcus gasped as knowledge from a dozen extinct medical traditions flooded through his mind. The tactical officer's eyes widened as strategic insights from ancient warrior species became part of his understanding. Even Captain Rivera stood straighter as the leadership wisdom of countless fallen civilizations enhanced her already considerable abilities. This is incredible, Rivera breathed, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there moments before. I can feel them all, every species that ever stood against the Devourers. They're with us now. The communications officer looked up from her station with wonder in her eyes. Captain, I'm receiving reports from across the fleet. Every ship, every human settlement, they're all experiencing the same phenomenon. The connection is spreading faster than our communication networks can track. Zara felt a deep satisfaction flow through her as she watched humanity transform itself in real time. This was what the Keltherans had always dreamed of: true harmony between different forms of consciousness, cooperation that transcended individual survival to embrace the continuation of life itself. But as the connection solidified, she also became aware of something else. The stunned Devourer ships were beginning to show signs of activity again. Their central network was adapting, trying to reassert control over the corrupted vessels. They're waking up, she warned, her enhanced perception showing her the enemy's recovery in stark detail. The Devourers are trying to purge the liberated consciousness from their ships. We have maybe an hour before they're fully operational again. Rivera nodded, her new awareness allowing her to process the threat with unprecedented clarity. Then we use that hour to do something they'll never expect. We don't run, we attack. Attack? Marcus looked concerned. Rivera, even with these new abilities, we're still massively outnumbered. Not if we're fighting as more than just humans, the captain replied, her tactical mind already working through possibilities that had been impossible just minutes before. She turned to Zara. How many consciousness fragments did you free from that ship? Fragments from 47 billion Keltherans, plus pieces of at least 90 other species, Zara replied. But they're not fragments anymore. The harmonic connection has allowed them to reconstitute as complete awareness patterns. They're as real and present as any living being. Rivera's smile was predatory. Then we're not 800 million refugees anymore. We're a coalition of over 100 species, all united in a single purpose. She turned to her communications officer. Send a message to every ship in the fleet. Tell them we're done running. Tell them it's time to take the fight to the Devourers. As the orders went out across the human fleet, Zara felt something she had never expected to experience again. The sensation of being part of something larger than herself, something that could not be broken or destroyed because it existed in the connections between conscious beings rather than in any individual form. The last Keltheran was no longer alone. Humanity was no longer facing extinction alone. And for the first time since the Devourers had begun their campaign of cosmic genocide, the forces of life and consciousness were united in a way that could not be conquered. The war was about to begin in earnest. But now, for the first time, they had a chance to win it. Zara, Marcus said softly, taking her hand as the ship around them hummed with new purpose. Thank you for trusting us, for saving us, for showing us that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about keeping the best of what we are alive for future generations. She squeezed his hand, marveling at how natural the gesture felt despite their vast biological differences. Thank you for finding me, for showing me that compassion exists even in the darkest times, for proving that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Around them, the ghostly forms of extinct civilizations pulsed with approval and determination. The bridge of the Defiance had become a nexus point where past and future met, where the memory of what had been lost connected with the hope of what could still be saved. As the human fleet began to move with unprecedented coordination and purpose, Zara closed her eyes and felt the deep harmony flowing through every ship, every person, every consciousness that had chosen to stand against extinction. They were no longer separate species fighting isolated battles for survival. They were life itself, organized and unified and absolutely determined to continue. The Devourers had made a critical error in trying to collect and control consciousness. They had given their enemies exactly what they needed to transform from scattered refugees into an unstoppable force of liberation. And now, as the last Keltheran opened her eyes to see a galaxy filled with allies she had never expected to find, she knew that the Real story was just beginning. The story of how extinction became rebirth, how isolation became connection, and how a human who risked everything to save one alien woman accidentally saved the universe itself. The war for the survival of consciousness was about to reach its turning point. And for the first time in cosmic history, extinction was going to lose.